I had returned to my parents' home in Alaska the day before and was at the airport. Since my brother couldn't pick me up due to a prior engagement, his wife, Mary, was supposed to come get me instead. It was just past 1:30 p.m. The agreed time was supposed to be 1 p.m. It was already over 30 minutes past. As I was wondering what to do, I heard a car horn honking. Turning around, there was Mary. I pulled my suitcase and hurried over to her. "Mary, thanks so much for coming all this way. Was traffic bad? Are you okay?" I assumed she was late because she got caught in traffic and told her so. However, Mary didn't reply. As I was about to give up on the conversation and get into the car, the door wouldn't open. "Huh? Is it locked?" "It's on purpose." "What do you mean? If you weren't planning to let me in the car, why come here?" Was that some kind of hallucination? I doubted my ears. But if that was the case, if you weren't planning to let me in the car, why come here? Just for kicks. Mary laughed with a creepy smile on her face. Then she said, "Why don't you hitchhike home?" "You're kidding, right? Well, I'm off. Take care." With that, she left. Realizing she was quite pleased with herself for merely teasing me, I understood that it was all just a jest. Anger bubbled up within me, and I felt an irritation I had never known before. Well, I might as well hitchhike home, just like Mary said. My name is Hannah. I'm currently 30 years old and work in a home cleaning service. The story of how my husband, John, and I met goes back 10 years, to our college days when we worked at the same part-time job. I was born in Alaska and moved to Chicago for college. To earn money for living on my own, I didn't join any clubs and spent my days going straight from class to work. Back then, I worked at a bar, and many of the staff were around my age, and we really got along well. That's why I was able to enjoy my college life. Among them, I got along particularly well with John. Though we went to different colleges, we were the same age and he was easy to talk to. We often had shifts together, so I spent more time with him than with other members of the staff. "Hey, Hannah. The boss is off today." "Lucky, huh?" "No way. That's awesome. Let's secretly eat the leftover desserts." "Sounds good. It's a deal." We would sneak off like this, just the two of us, or chat about love interests, who liked whom at work, and other lighthearted topics. Back then, I thought of him as just a good guy friend, and I didn't have any romantic feelings for him, but it seems John felt differently. As we were both about to graduate and had secured full-time jobs starting in the spring, we decided to quit our part-time jobs at the same time. After a farewell party thrown by our close friends, and everyone else had left, about 10 minutes later, John asked me to meet him alone at a nearby park. There was no reason to refuse, so I headed to the park right away. "Hey, over here," John called out, waving his hand. "What's up? Are you drunk?" I laughed, seeing John's flushed face looking serious. Usually, John would just say shut up and laugh it off, but not that day. He looked seriously unsettled and didn't change his expression. Feeling the unusual atmosphere, I couldn't help but ask, "What? What is it?" "Well, it's just that." "Come on, spit it out." "I don't want to be apart." "Huh? From who?" "From you. We won't see each other after we quit the job, right?" "I hate that idea." I was momentarily at a loss for words, not fully grasping the meaning behind John's words. "What? Really?" "Stop with that unbelievable reaction. It hurts, you know." No. Sorry. It's just too unexpected, and my brain hasn't caught up yet." "I don't see you just as a friend. I've always liked you romantically. So, if it's okay with you, would you want to go out with me?" Seeing John speaking with a seriousness I had never seen before, I realized his feelings for me were genuine. Since I had always seen him as a friend, I told him I needed some time to think, and we parted ways that day. 2 weeks passed with John's confession hanging in the balance, and the time came for the welcome party for new employees. My mind wasn't there. I kept thinking about John. When we were working part-time, we used to see each other 2 or 3 times a week. But since quitting the job, it had been 2 weeks without seeing him. I felt strangely lonely. I couldn't help but think, am I that simple, as I realized I missed John and liked him not just as a friend. And so, our relationship progressed, and after dating for 7 years, we decided to get married when we were 27. It was time to meet each other's parents. As for meeting my parents, I decided against formally announcing it. My parents had divorced when I was young, because of my father's affair. So, it was just my mom and me, as I had no siblings. I had always been the only family for my mom. The reason I chose my current job was because I thought it suited me. My mom was always busy with work, coming home late every day. So, I naturally took on cooking, laundry, and cleaning by myself. But I never found it burdensome. In fact, I enjoyed those moments so much that I decided to pursue this career. I called my mom to tell her about the wedding. "Hello, Mom? There's something I want to talk about." "Oh, Hannah. How have you been? What is it?" "Yes, I'm fine. Actually, I want to marry John. So, we're planning to come over and formally greet you." "Oh, congratulations. You're finally getting married. I'm really happy for you. If it's with John, I can rest assured you should marry him." "Mom. But I know what John looks like, and there's no need for you all to come formally. It's a long way here, and it's just me, so I'll visit you guys at your place instead. My family home is in Alaska. Traveling from where we live in Chicago to Alaska takes about 6 hours by plane alone. My mom knew about my long-term relationship with John and had met him a few times, so she said it wasn't necessary for us to come for a greeting. However, when I mentioned this to John, he said, "No, it doesn't matter what your mom says, we should go and properly meet her," and so we ended up going to my rural family home to greet my mom together. "I told you it was too far for you to bother coming. Distance doesn't matter. I wanted to see your mom in person and talk to her. I promise I'll always make Hannah happy." Hearing this, my mom, with tears in her eyes, happily said, "Please take good care of my precious daughter." With my family's greeting done, the next week we headed to John's home. Having been in a long relationship, we had many chances to visit John's family home before we decided to get married, and I had met his parents several times. John's dad is the president of a major company, and they have a pretty big house. His mom is the wife of a president, a very classy lady. What you'd call wealthy. I remember being shocked by the size of their house the first time I visited. At first, I was scared they might be like the strict and frightening parents you see in dramas. Would they disapprove of me being from a single-parent household or my job? But surprisingly, both of them were really down-to-earth and easy to talk to. They didn't care at all that my mom was a single mother and really took a liking to me. So, I wasn't too nervous about this marriage greeting. "Long time no see. Sorry for intruding." "Oh, Hannah. It's been a while. You look well. Hannah. Welcome. We've been waiting for this day." Old man here was getting impatient. John's parents were as kind as ever, and I felt relieved. They were genuinely happy about our marriage, and we had a great time that day. We thought our families had accepted us, and we were free from any family troubles, or so I thought, but there was one person I found a bit difficult to deal with, almost like a nemesis. That person was John's brother's wife. She named Mary. Nathan's wife, Mary, and he had gotten married 2 years before us, triggered by the news that they were expecting a child. When they got married, I was still single and just dating John, but we had been together for a long time. When I heard Natalie was going to have a baby, we decided to visit John's family to celebrate. "Congrats, Nathan. Nathan. Congratulations. Hannah. Brother. Thanks to both of you." Nathan responded with a smile, and sitting next to him was a woman holding a cute baby. immediately identifiable as Nathan's wife. I hurriedly introduced myself. "Nice to meet you, I'm Hannah." "Nice to meet you too. I'm Mary. Nathan has told me a lot about you. We're close in age, so let's get along." Mary smiled warmly, giving off a very calm and kind vibe, which was my first impression of her. The conversation turned to ordering pizza, and we chatted and ate together. Talking with Mary, I found out she was a year younger than me. She worked as a nurse and was currently on maternity leave. As we continued to chat, our husbands said they were going to step out for a smoke, leaving us to continue our girl talk. What was Nathan's proposal like? "We got married because I was pregnant, so there was no romantic proposal. It happened casually in the car. Like, we're having a baby, so should we get married?" I'm still holding a grudge about it. What? But marriage proposals are every girl's dream. We'll have to lecture Nathan later. Our girl talk naturally transitioned to discussions about careers. Why did you decide to become a nurse, Mary? My mom was a nurse, and ever since I was a child, I wanted to be like her. So, I studied really hard. Wow, that's amazing. And cool. But night shifts must be hard, right? Not at all, it's challenging but fulfilling. By the way, what do you do, Hannah? Me? I work in a home cleaning service. Huh? What's that? I felt Mary's brows furrow for a moment. It's indeed a job not everyone is familiar with. So, maybe she didn't get it? I explained again. I go to clients' houses to do things like cleaning, laundry, and sometimes even cooking meals, taking care of children, or keeping dogs company. It really varies depending on the client. What kind of job is that? Just sounds like being a helper. Mary muttered under her breath. Huh? What did she just say? Did I hear that wrong? What? Oh, nothing. I could never do a job that seems so uninteresting to me. I actually enjoy housework, so it's not a chore for me at all, and it's surprisingly fun. Housework is something anyone can do. I personally would hate being bossed around by strangers. It sounded a bit sarcastic, but oh well. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion, after all. I tried not to take Mary's comments too personally. But after that, every time I met Mary, she would criticize my job. Are you still sticking with that pointless job? Pointless? I actually find it quite fulfilling. Oh, sorry. Just slipped out, she would say, in a tone that seemed to belittle my work. This didn't change even after John and I got married. Hannah, I heard you got married to John? Congratulations. It's amazing how John's parents approved of someone in such a low-end job as yours. Low-end job. I couldn't believe my ears at her harsh words. Well, isn't it? Just odd jobs? A helper? Something like that? Did you sweet-talk your father-in-law or something? That's a terrible thing to say. I didn't sweet-talk anyone. They accepted me willingly. Wow, the eldest son's wife of such a wealthy and prestigious family working as just a helper? That's quite the embarrassment. Mary's insults about my job became more intense, taking advantage of my silence. What made it worse was that she would never say such things in front of Natalie or John. She only said them when it was just the two of us. And then she would always add, "Please don't mention any of this to John or Nathan, okay?" If she didn't want them to hear, she shouldn't bother me in the first place. It seemed like Mary enjoyed insulting me and watching my reaction. As per her request, I didn't tell Natalie or John about the insults. So neither of them knew her true nature, with my husband saying, "Mary is really ladylike, isn't she?" I could have told John about her, but nobody likes to hear negative things about their sibling's spouse. It felt wrong to stir things up, so I never brought it up. And since I wasn't being openly harassed at the moment, I thought, oh well. I initially thought we could get along well since we were close in age, but it was clear that wasn't going to happen. But then, one day. Something happened that made oh well not an option anymore. That day, I was at the airport. I had gone back to my family home the day before and stayed overnight. Usually, John would pick me up from the airport, but today he was out with his brother Natalie, so he couldn't come to get me. Even though I won't be there, it looks like Nathan's wife is going to pick you up. Mary? She's not resenting it, is she? What? Why would you think that? She doesn't seem to mind at all. You always seem to get along. Nathan said he'd asked her to do it. Just take it easy for today. I was astounded by my husband's obliviousness, but what could I do? Okay, thank you. Then I'll be waiting. I was sure Mary disliked me. So, I never imagined she'd actually come to pick me up. I was skeptical but decided to wait and see. Maybe Mary had changed her feelings? Hoping for that, I waited for the agreed time. However, even after the appointed time, there was no sign of Mary. It was already past 1:30 p.m. More than 30 minutes had gone by since our agreed time. Maybe it was foolish of me to think Mary would come for me after all. Feeling down about it, I was about to leave the meeting spot when I heard a car horn honking. Huh? Turning around, there was Mary. I pulled my suitcase and ran towards her with a smile. Mary, thank you so much for coming all this way. Was the traffic bad? Are you okay? I tried to be friendly, but Mary looked displeased. Sorry, was it too far for you? No matter what I said, Mary kept her silence. Rather, it seemed like she was ignoring me. As I got no response to anything I said, I reluctantly gave up on trying to make conversation and tried to get into the car, but the door wouldn't open. Huh? Is it locked? I looked at Mary remaining silent. Then she finally turned to me and spoke for the first time. It's on purpose, she said. What do you mean? Did you really think I came to pick you up? As if I'd let someone with such a low-end job in this car? What? What does that mean? Exactly as I said. People like you are not welcome in my car. Mary said with a chuckle, which only made me more irritated. Why come here if you had no intention of letting me in the car? Huh? Isn't it obvious? Just for a laugh. I wanted to see that angry face of yours. Mary started laughing with a creepy expression. While I stood there dumbfounded, she spat out, "Why don't you just hitchhike back?" Hitchhike? Are you serious? Yep, I'm off then. She said and walked away. To come all this way just to mock me. My anger towards Mary's actions began to boil over. But I couldn't dwell on it. John was waiting for me at home, after all. Hitchhiking didn't seem realistic. So I decided to take a bus or train home. I had just texted John, saying, I'm still at the airport waiting for Mary, so I'll be home in about an hour, right before this happened. To avoid worrying him, I called, sorry, I'll take the train and bus back, so my return will be delayed by about an hour. What? Why are you taking the bus and train? Mary was supposed to head there, right? Well, she did come to the airport, but then she left me behind. What? Why? What happened? How are you getting back? I don't know. She told me to hitchhike back. What the hell? I'll tell Nathan to ask her to come back immediately. You could tell from the phone call that John was confused and agitated. That makes sense. He had complete trust in Mary, after all. It was when I was contemplating whether to take John's advice and have Mary come back. I spotted someone familiar. Ah, I just saw someone I know, I'll ask if they can give me a ride. I'll figure something out, so wait for me. A friend? Are you sure you'll be okay? Be careful. We'll be home soon too, so don't push yourself, okay? I'm sure it'll be okay. Thank you. With that, John and I ended the call. I decided to chase after the person I spotted to talk to them. Then, I noticed my phone ringing. Is it John? Thinking that, I checked the screen only to see Mary's name displayed. After leaving me stranded at the airport, What could she possibly want now? I was so upset with Mary that I decided to ignore the call. However, she kept calling back relentlessly. Something felt off. Could she have gotten into an accident? If something happened to Mary because I kept ignoring her. Worried by my negative thoughts, I finally decided to answer the call. Hello? Hey! What did you say to Nathan? Mary's voice was so loud that it hurt my ears, forcing me to pull the phone away. It seemed Mary hadn't been in an accident after all. Huh? What are you talking about? After calling me repeatedly, Mary suddenly started yelling, making me even angrier. This time, I couldn't help but respond more forcefully than usual. Nathan scolded me, asking what I did to you. Why do I have to be yelled at? Oh, that's what this is about. I didn't talk to Nathan directly. I just told John I'd be late, and when he asked why, I mentioned you left me behind. We had a deal not to tell John or Nathan, right? It was supposed to be just your problem, but now it's the worst. Mary started screaming again, blaming me. It's your fault. What are you going to do about this? How dare you, with your low-end job? Wait a minute. I never made such a promise, and what's wrong with telling the truth? Her outrage was unjustified. What? If you just wanted to complain, I'm hanging up. Wait. If I don't pick you up, Nathan will scold me. Just wait there. Mary, still furious, said she would come back and then hung up abruptly. Well. There was something important I wanted to say. But it's okay. Thinking this could actually be a chance to turn the tables on Mary, I decided not to call her back and instead waited with the acquaintance I had just met for Mary to arrive. 20 minutes after ending the call with Mary, she showed up at the previously agreed meeting spot. Get in, she said in a brusque manner, gesturing to the car with her chin, urging me to get inside. No thanks. I'll pass. What? What are you talking about? I came all the way here to pick you up. But you were the one who said you wouldn't give me a ride in the first place, right? Why are you being so spiteful? Just get in already. Nathan is going to scold me. No, I've managed to hitchhike. So, I don't need a ride. Hitchhike. Look, these two have offered to take me home, I said, and the people I had spoken to earlier stepped out from behind the car. Mary was shocked when she saw them. Oh, mother-in-law? Father-in-law? Yes. Those people were none other than John's parents. In other words, they were Mary's in-laws. 20 minutes earlier. While I was on the phone with John, I noticed two familiar figures. They were holding hands, carrying lots of souvenirs, and looked very happy together. It turned out they were John's parents. Mother-in-law. Father-in-law. Oh, Hannah. What a surprise. What a coincidence. Why are you at the airport? I was visiting my family home in Alaska. Are you two traveling? Yes. My wife wanted to go on a hot spring trip, so we took a little vacation together, they said, smiling at each other and sharing their travel stories. It was clear they had a wonderful trip. Seeing their cheerful faces made me forget all about my irritation with Mary, and I felt warmed by their happiness. Was John supposed to pick you up at the airport? No, John is out with Nathan. Those two are really close, aren't they? Oh? So how are you planning to get back home? I was actually supposed to be picked up by Mary, but, well. As I hesitated, my mother-in-law expressed concern. What happened? Did something happen? Can you tell me? So, I decided to share what Mary had done to me. How Mary had left me stranded. How she had been insulting me all this time. My in-laws listened intently, nodding seriously. Where is Mary now? She said she was coming back here over the phone. Is that so? Well, this might be a good chance to give her a little surprise, my father-in-law said with a mischievous grin like a boy planning a prank. This was 20 minutes ago. At my father-in-law's suggestion, we decided to wait together for Mary's arrival. Mary was stunned to find my in-laws there, not expecting them to be present. "Oh Mary, what a coincidence. Why are you here?" "Hannah was about to hitchhike because you told her to. We decided to give her a ride." "You did tell her to hitchhike back, right?" my mother-in-law said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ah, it was." Mary was at a loss for words, mumbling incoherently. Then, she glaring at me. She was caught off guard by my father-in-law's next words. "Mary, do you have something to say to Hannah? Please, say it in front of us." Bracing herself, Mary sighed heavily and began. "This woman is a low-end worker, you know? How can I say that the eldest son's wife of Nathan's wealthy and dignified family is just a helper? So, I thought I'd say it for you, kind mother and father-in-law. She's a disgrace to this family." Mary spat out her words venomously. A stark contrast to the usually demure and gentle Mary. My in-laws seemed a bit shocked. "If you call Hannah's job low-end, what does that make me, a homemaker?" "That's different. Mother-in-law has class, and being a homemaker doesn't matter. It's absurd to think it's okay for me, but not for Hannah. Hannah has her own dignity too. But, regardless, Hannah doesn't fit in this family. She shouldn't be accepted." "It's not for you to decide. It's wrong to judge someone solely by their occupation. From my perspective, both Mary and Hannah are suitable for this family," my father-in-law said, placing a reassuring hand on Mary's shoulder. "That's right. We love both of you. So, Mary, please be nice to Hannah. For Nathan and John's sake, and for ours, okay?" Tears started to stream down Mary's face. "I'm so sorry. I truly am." She apologized through sobs. "It's okay. I'm sorry too," I responded, and somehow we managed to reconcile. Both Mary and I felt anew the warmth of my in-laws. Afterward, Mary decided to drive back in her car, and I went with my in-laws. Though I could have gone with Mary. "Let's have a long chat today. Can you tell me about your trip to Alaska?" "Thank you so much. Because of you, mother and father, it seems I can now talk normally with Mary." "What are you talking about? We're a family, aren't we?" With that, we all went back to the family home where Nathan and John were waiting. Upon arrival, Nathan immediately approached Mary, who was being lectured in a rather upset mood, but it was clear she was quietly accepting the scolding. After seeing Mary's demeanor, Nathan seemed convinced she was genuinely remorseful but warned, "You know what will happen if you do something like this again, right?" Everyone probably thought of divorce at that moment. "Hannah, were you okay? I'm sorry. I had no idea about what was happening between you and Mary." John expressed his regret and concern. "It's fine. Besides, I'm okay." "Really? You're not just saying that?" "Yes. Thanks to your parents, I'm safe, and it looks like Mary and I have made up." "What? Dad and Mom did? What happened exactly?" John looked utterly confused. It made me laugh. "Why are you laughing?" "I was just thinking how happy I am. Thank you for marrying me." "What, suddenly, thanks, I guess." John scratched his head in embarrassment. 3 years later. We were both 33. As I was cooking, my husband rushed over to me. "Hannah, please, just sit down. Don't move around too much. Your belly is getting big, you know." "Oh, you're being overprotective. I'm fine doing this much." "No way. If something happened to you or the baby. I'm just worried, so please sit down. Come on, to the sofa." Guided by my husband, I sat down on the sofa. Yes. Actually, John and I are expecting a baby. I'm in my final month and the baby is due soon. The doctor told us it's a girl. "Hannah, if anything comes up, make sure to ask me, okay? I'm somewhat of a parenting veteran." Mary said confidently, hands on her hips. Mary. Thank you. I'll definitely ask for advice. Once the baby is born and grows a bit, let's go on a trip together with Nathan, John, you, me, and the kids. Maybe we should invite mother and father-in-law too? That sounds great. I'm looking forward to it. We smiled at each other as we talked about the future. Mary no longer ridiculed my profession. It seems the words of my in-laws resonated with her in her own way. Once like cats and dogs, thanks to my in-laws, we've truly become good friends, now able to discuss anything. Surrounded by kind in-laws, a loving husband, and a caring brother-in-law and his wife, I am truly happy now. I'm Mary, 42 years old. 10 years ago, I married a man I met at work. He was divorced with a child, whom I've raised as my own while working. During this time, my husband started his own business and, despite many ups and downs, persevered as the president until the end. My stepson turned 20 this year. He left home 2 years ago to attend a university in a neighboring state and seems to be managing well living alone. But our ordinary life changed abruptly. My husband passed away. He died of a heart attack, and there was nothing that could be done. While I was overwhelmed with grief, there were countless things to take care of, including the funeral and various arrangements, and before I knew it, the day of the funeral arrived. The funeral was a small, family-only affair, as my husband wished. His parents had already passed away, and being an only child, the only family he had by blood was our son. My parents and siblings didn't get along with my husband, so we didn't invite them. It was just me and our son at the very small funeral. Before the coffin was taken away, my son came to me in the waiting room. "What's wrong?" I asked him as usual, but he didn't respond. His expression was almost blank. When I asked again, he suddenly started saying incomprehensible things. "That's enough, you parasite." "What?" "Stop clinging to Dad. You just came in later and started sucking up all his money. You fake mother parasite, just renounce your inheritance and disappear. The real family is just me." After saying that, he left the room, slamming the door behind him. The sound echoed painfully in my heart. After that, we didn't talk, and as soon as the funeral was over, he went back to his dorm. I couldn't ask him what he meant by his words. I tried to contact him, but my messages were left unread, and he ignored my calls. I couldn't confirm anything, and it was already the next day. Today, I tried contacting him several times, but still no response. And with work tomorrow, it's difficult to just leave for his dorm in the neighboring state. So, I stopped by a convenience store to pick up some light food and drinks, then headed home. When I entered my apartment, I noticed a sliver of light under the door to the living room. Hesitantly, I approached and opened the door quietly. To my surprise, there was my son, sitting on the living room sofa, seemingly waiting for me. "What are you doing here?" After moving out for his dorm, my son only came home for the holidays, like Christmas and New Year's. Even during the recent wake and funeral, he didn't stop by here, he just went straight from his dorm and back. Ignoring my obvious confusion, my son confronted me in a calm voice, or rather, a slightly mocking tone. "Was something inconvenient for you? Didn't want to be seen doing whatever you please now that Dad's gone?" "What do you mean?" "Just figured you'd be living it up in your own way now that Dad's not around." "In many ways." "That's not true at all." "Yeah, whatever. Anyway, that's not important. Did you eat?" "Huh? Are you hungry?" "If you haven't eaten, I can make something simple." It was getting late. If he had been waiting in the room alone, he might be hungry. As a mother, it was natural for me to offer, but it seemed to irritate him. Suddenly, he slammed his hand on the table in front of him and glared at me with hostility. "You! Didn't I just say it?" "What?" "How long are you gonna keep shamelessly squatting in this house? You fake mother parasite, just renounce your inheritance and disappear. The real family is just me." The same lines, the same insults as before, came flying out from my son. What's really going on? Did something happen? What? I only put up with you because Dad was around. Who would think of someone like you as my mother? You just leeched off Dad while he was the CEO, sucking up the sweet life. Just get lost now. I was at a loss for words. Indeed, since remarrying 10 years ago, my son hardly ever turned to me for affection. He grew up protected by his kind father, having experienced his parents' divorce at a young age. I felt that my presence had robbed him of his gentle father. So, for the past 10 years, I tried my best to raise him. I made daily lunches, took him to and from extracurricular activities, and created many family-like moments. Even during his rebellious phase, my husband struggled with all sorts of things, but we faced it together, believing it was a phase every child goes through. But it seems my efforts never reached him. My son's painful words inflicted deep damage on my heart. I painfully realized that our relationship was only possible because of the presence of my husband, his blood father, and my husband. My son, openly hostile towards me. This is probably the real face of my son. Perhaps, no matter what I say as his stepmother, it won't reach him anymore. So, I decided to at least listen to his last wish. Yes. No matter what happens, you gotta keep living. Absolutely. Huh? Don't you act all high and mighty, you fake. The words from my son, filled with such intensity, felt like they were piercing through me. What do you want? Get out of here. What? This house belonged to Dad, which means it's now mine. No place for a fake family like you. Kevin. Shut up. Don't talk to me. Don't even say my name. I really want to tell you to get out right now. But I'm kind because you did take care of me when I was a kid. I'll give you a week's notice. This is my house. I can't live in that tiny apartment forever. Just hand over the place and get lost. The last look my son gave me left deep wounds in my heart. With that, he left for his dorm. A week later. After work, I checked my personal phone and saw an unbelievable number of missed calls and messages. Most of them were from Kevin, just as I expected. I turned off my phone for a while and headed home. After a quick dinner and a bath, I turned my phone back on after a few hours. As soon as I did, the sound of countless messages and missed call notifications wouldn't stop. I tried to go through them, and the moment I marked the messages as read, Kevin called, as if he had been waiting. Hello? Hey! What the hell do you think you're doing? Don't mess with me. I could hear my son's anger through the phone. It wasn't surprising. The first message had come in the morning. Calm down first. I can't talk to you if you don't speak properly. What? You're the one making it impossible to talk properly. What's this about the house being up for sale? So, it was about that. Not really surprising. How about we meet and talk? Where are you? Outside the house. I see. So, you saw the for sale sign and started bombarding me with calls. Makes sense. Of course. He must have been there since the morning. Well, there's nowhere else for him to be, I guess. For now, you can still get into the house. If you have the key, go in and wait. It's completely empty, though. What? The key still works? He hadn't even tried it. I suddenly remembered my husband, who had a simple and slow-witted side, just like my son Kevin. He must have tried the key after I suggested it. I could hear the sound of the door opening through the phone. He probably stepped into the entrance, relieved and slightly relaxed, judging by the deep breath I heard. Yet, he couldn't hide his emotions or embarrassment, and his voice came out harshly. Just hurry up and get here. The call abruptly ended, and I let out a heavy sigh. In the midst of my hectic daily life, having just relaxed at home, honestly, going out was a hassle. There were still a mountain of things to do. But I knew I had to have a proper conversation with my son, for various reasons. Resigned to this, I put my coat back on and headed to my former home. As I opened the unlocked door, I saw the cold hallway leading to the lit living room. Walking quietly over the chilly floor, I found Kevin sitting cross-legged in the middle of the empty living room.
"You're late. How long do you expect people to wait?"
"What?" I came right after the phone call ended. My stronger tone surprised Kevin a bit. But ever since we met, he was always biting back, not just at me, but also at his biological father, my husband. He wasn't going to back down now and lashed out even more.
"Are you kidding me? What's with the for sale sign?"
"The house is too big for one person, so I thought about selling it." Your words helped me make up my mind. Thanks for that. The cold floor of winter was draining the warmth from my body. I turned on the air conditioner as I always did.
"What? You can't just sell Dad's house."
"Oh. But this is my house." "What?" "This house is mine, legally in my name." "What? You didn't know?"
"Don't lie to me. How could you afford a place like this? You think I'm stupid just because I'm young?"
No, wasn't it you who treated me with a condescending attitude?" "Of course, I wouldn't say that out loud." "No, it's legally in my name. I can show you the registration if you want." His real thoughts spilled out as I spoke with deliberate firmness. "How can someone with no money like you afford it? You must have tricked Dad into giving you the money. Just like you wormed your way into his life for his money when he was a CEO. I knew it." Even though my husband and I tried desperately to connect, Kevin never opened up his heart. Correctly speaking, my husband became a president after we got married. But it's true Kevin probably thought some random woman was approaching his father, who could earn enough to start a company. But that doesn't change the fact that you, his son, were freely spending his money, right? "What? You thought I didn't know? You sneaked into Dad's company and stole money during your middle and high school years, didn't you?" Kevin's face stiffened, not expecting me to know. In reality, it was Kevin, not me, who was siphoning off his father's money. "How do you know that?" "I didn't at first. Your father was desperately hiding it to protect you. But eventually, there were accounting issues, and when pressed, your father admitted, Kevin has been coming to the company and taking money." "Dad knew?" "Of course he knew." "How much do you think you took from Dad's company?" "How would I know?" $400,000.
"What?"
"And I think you probably took a few thousand more." Kevin probably didn't even realize he had stolen that much. "Seriously?" he muttered, shaking his foot slightly. "No point asking what he spent it on now. By the way, aren't you wondering how I know all this?" "Yeah." "How do you know so much about Dad's company?" "You must have been up to no good." The nerve of this kid, accusing me of wrongdoing. "It's only natural I know. It's my company." "What?" "That company is mine, so of course I know about it."
"No way. That was Dad's company. Don't tell me you took over it."
"I wouldn't take over such a small company that was in huge debt." "Debt?" "Yes. Dad's company was on the brink of collapse, so we included it under our group to turn it around. That's why you could go to college and still ask Dad for money. You should be thanking me." "What?" Dad was indeed the president since he went independent 8 years ago. But eventually, he became an employed president under our group. Like a salaried president. Why? Like I said, the company was in huge debt and had no way out, so we took it under our wing. But why? Your father had no business acumen. He thought he could handle it even after you stole $400,000 from him. That's impossible for that company. It couldn't make up for a $400,000 loss. So, we took it under our group. Dad cut his salary to pay employees, and I paid for all our living expenses and this apartment, which I owned, to reduce the burden. As I spoke calmly, Kevin's reaction was surprisingly mild, beyond his stiffened expression. He seemed unable to keep up with the facts spilling from my mouth. What do you mean, you already owned it? Oh, I've been investing in various things since I was young. I owned several apartments, including this one, which I bought to rent out. When we were looking for a new place to live, I thought it would be suitable for our family. You own several apartments? Yes, real estate income. How did you have money to invest when you were young? Well, who are you, anyway? After living together for 10 years, he's finally asking. He always thought of me as just an ordinary office worker. Lack of interest is a scary thing. Living life ignoring what should be seen and known. Even the most important things, like your own family. My efforts at parenting were one-sided after all. It wasn't just Kevin's fault. The trauma of divorce in his early years, the appearance of a stepmother he couldn't accept, being tossed around by the whims of adults, these are undeniable facts. But neither my husband nor I could find the answer to what to do. We were either not allowed to find it, or we were not allowed to find it. Now, it's just a result. I need to explain this to Kevin too. I calmly laid out the facts to the suspicious Kevin. Do you know Turner Group? I'm the COO there. What? The Turner Group? Remember my maiden name? Ah. Right, Mary Turner. Daughter of the CEO of Turner Group, the heir to the Turner family.
No way. I've never met your family.
That's because your father avoided them. He didn't want to face them after running off with the heir to the Turner family, a divorced man. So, he avoided any meetings.
What?
And then, we had to include his failing company under our group's umbrella. Without even apologizing. That's probably why he lacked business skills. My husband indeed spent his last days running from the Turner family. My family wanted to meet him, but he never did until the end. That's why they weren't invited to the funeral. He was a kind man. Truly kind man. But that kindness also became a source of indulgence and escape. Then that means I'm the grandson of the Turner Group, right? That's true, isn't it? I expected you'd say that. That's why I never told Kevin this truth until now. I thought about telling him when he was in high school, but at that time, it wasn't something he could handle. He would definitely take advantage of the Turner name. In that sense, my husband keeping us distant from my family was a blessing in disguise. Kevin's recent words just confirmed it all. But sadly, you're not the grandson of the Turner Group.
What? If you're my mother, then I'm the grandson. Even if you're a fake mother, that's what the family register says. Don't try to deceive me.
Did you listen to what I said before? What? What did I say? I wonder if the son in front of me remembers. He looks confused, trying to recall, but it seems nothing came to mind. After you said, the only real family is me, I said, no matter what, you have to keep living. Absolutely. Kevin seemed to remember that, but still had a face that said, so what? Clearly, my words and intentions hadn't reached him. His expression confirmed it. You're 20 years old, you should understand the meaning, right? What? You're an adult and a college student, living a life beyond most adults, without thinking about anything?
What? It's normal for parents to support while kids are students.
There's no obligation to support beyond tuition and basic living expenses. What? Parents don't have to pay for your leisure and luxury. At my words, Kevin quickly hid his expensive-looking watch. Surely, there are many other things he obtained with the over $400,000 he used. For a student who doesn't work, they're all disproportionate. Such disproportionate armor is fragile and protects nothing. You're okay with your child being homeless? I don't mind. It's none of my concern anymore. What? You're no longer my concern. Kevin looked at me, his face saying he didn't understand. I've never really understood you, Kevin. From the day your father brought you until today, I couldn't strip away that inappropriate, fragile armor with a direct approach. Your father has passed away. So, we're no longer parent and child. What? I divorced your father after his death, and my last name is back to Turner. You and I are now complete strangers. Well, we've always been strangers, actually.
Why would you do something like that?
Why? You said it yourself. The only real family is you. You never thought of me as family from the start. It worked out perfectly.
That's not true. What am I supposed to do without parent?
I wasn't your family, remember? You said it yourself.
But you should have consulted me.
Consult? To someone who never listened even when I tried to connect? To someone who left and never came back, doing whatever he pleased? Besides, we're not family, so why should I consult you? I smiled sweetly at Kevin, his face turning red and his body trembling. It might be immature. But after these 10 years of looking at him as family, maintaining this relationship of stepmother and child seemed too hard. Suffering under a kind yet indulgent husband and a son who wouldn't accept me as family. I've grown tired over these 10 years. What about college and a place to live? Didn't I already point that out? What? No matter what happens, carry on. Absolutely. You demanded that I renounce my inheritance, so you must have thought about it, right? What? The inheritance. What happened to it? Sadly, your father left debts. Consumer loans, credit card loans, about $600,000. And no savings. What? Debts and no savings? Of course, as you demanded, I renounced the inheritance, so all the dead inheritance goes to you. Good luck.
What? I'm not inheriting any debts. Why are there debts and no savings?
Because you stole from his company, remember? What? I said earlier, besides that $400,000, and there were probably more. Kevin nodded slightly. That was probably used to cover the hole in your father's savings and debts. What? Probably at first, he was trying to cover it up without creating a hole in the company's funds. The company had just started, and there wasn't much savings. Once that ran out, and he couldn't borrow anymore, he struggled for years, trying to deceive, and eventually came crying to me. You had already consumed what should have been your father's inheritance. It's your own doing, isn't it? I wonder if my words reached him. His eyes bloodshot and round, Kevin mutters to himself, exuding an aura of despair. How much is the debt? It was less than $100,000, I think. $100,000? Kevin sat down, holding his head. I'll give you a hint, though. A hint? A hint that might help you survive. What is it? Tell me, quickly. You know, you're asking for a favor. Maybe think about how you ask? Sorry, please tell me. Like I did, you can renounce the inheritance too. Really? His face brightened up, persistently asking how to do it. You can do the procedure yourself if you look it up. Besides, you're a law student, right? Oh wait, you barely got into a decent private university with a recommendation from a low-ranking high school and you're struggling to pass, right? You're technically a junior but haven't even earned 40 credits yet? It makes sense you don't know. I hit a sore spot and he looked down, biting his lip. He might think of me as a mean adult, but it's intentional. He probably hasn't been attending school properly. Less than 40 credits in 3 years. It'll take at least 3 more years to graduate, right? That means 2 more years of tuition. It's far beyond what he could possibly afford to pay. There's some life insurance in your name from your father.
Really?
It's only $60,000. Seeing Kevin's reaction, as if he wanted to exclaim, "Is that all?" I mentioned that it's also due to his actions that there wasn't more money for insurance, causing him to make an uncomfortable face. And you know, there might be taxes on the insurance money, so look into that.
What? Taxes on insurance money?
You're an adult, so maybe look it up? Even after taxes, It should be enough to set up a room and live for a while. If you want to continue college, apply for scholarships. Wait, set up a room? What do you mean? The apartment you're living in now. I'm canceling it at the end of this month. What? Why? It's rented under my name. I have no obligation to keep renting and paying for someone who's not my child. Can't you give me like a month's notice? What? You only gave me a week's notice. You have 3 more weeks. You're 20, an adult. You can rent a room and do anything. I'm just following through on your words. Take responsibility for what you said.
This can't be happening.
He looked to pirate. But from my perspective, there's much more he could do. I wish he'd realized this. First off, why not sell those inappropriate branded items for cash? What? Like that watch you're wearing, and that bag. Do you really need them right now? I want him to think and struggle to find answers. Kevin, who has grown up indulged in his father's unconditional kindness since his mother wasn't around. He might have been awkwardly showing his neediness to me too. But there's a difference between acceptable neediness and harmful self-indulgence. Actions that hurt others and change lives are not neediness but mere selfishness. It's clear that a 20-year-old adult like him will struggle in life if this continues. I don't hate Kevin. In fact, I still think of him as my dear son. That's why I cut ties with him with the greatest love I could offer. He needs to strive on his own now. I left an envelope with necessary documents in front of the still stunned Kevin. I'm sure he will understand. With that hope, I softly stroked his hair for the first time in years and quietly left the former home. 3 years have passed since my husband's death. Every year on his anniversary, I visit his grave and update him. There, I always find beautiful blue gentians laid out. The person who offers flowers to my husband, who had no siblings or parents. I'm sure it must be the person I have in mind. The meaning of the gentian flower is consoling sorrow. Blue gentians symbolize sincerity. The same color as my husband's favorite tie. It's out of season to get these flowers now. I wonder what he thinks and where he gets them. Every year, I lay white gentians next to the blue ones. Their meaning is sincere character. Like my straightforward, kind husband, watching over Kevin from afar. After finishing my visit, I returned to the office. Even now, after 3 years, I continue my daily life as the COO of Turner Group. COO, please check this. What's this? It's the list of new employees joining our group companies next year. Oh, it's already that time of year, isn't it? Every year around this time, the list of new employees joining the group companies is brought to me. With so many companies, the list is quite long, but it's my personal wish to remember the faces and names of the young people who will be working with us. As I was flipping through the list handed over by my secretary, I came across the list from the company where my husband used to be the president. The current president of that company is really unique and capable, isn't he? You knew him from college, right? The secretary approached with a mug of coffee. Its gentle aroma tickled my nose. Yes, he's been a friend since college. He did great in another company, so I lured him over to lead.
It was a great success. The company has shown significant growth since then.
After my husband's sudden passing, I had to look for a new president. Given the tough business conditions, it was hard to find suitable staff. That meant there was no one suitable within the company either, leading to a tough situation. So I managed to persuade a friend of mine, who had joined a venture company with only a few employees, to join as the new president, and had grown the company to a scale of 100 employees. The existing employees were initially puzzled by the completely different approach of the new president. However, his personality and power led the team, and he continues to elevate the company. I was curious about the new employees he had chosen. As I flipped through the list, I saw a familiar face. It was Kevin. What's this about? I called my friend immediately. Hello. Hey, I didn't hear about this. About what? The new employees starting in April. Oh, were you surprised? He seemed to know what I was talking about. Surprised? Why is he there? Why? Because he's interesting. What? He is quite interesting. His life until 3 years ago was quite heavy, but these last 3 years have amplified his character. I have only high expectations. Listening to my friend, I stared at Kevin's photo on the list. His face had changed significantly, looking much more mature. The expression he had when I last stroked his hair was nowhere to be seen. Okay. Take care of him. Like you have to tell me. The call was abruptly ended. Even though he says that, I know he's watching over Kevin. That's good. I thought to myself, feeling relieved. I might never meet Kevin directly, but I'm sure I'll hear about him often. I can't feel the softness of his hair, but I gently stroke his photo on the paper and smile softly. You know, you're younger and nicer. Oh, that's nice to hear. Stick around a little longer. That's what greeted me, tired from my business trip, my husband and my sister talking like that. After mocking me, I started hearing unpleasant voices. For a moment, I thought about barging in and yelling at them. But I quickly regained my composure and pulled out my smartphone. Then, I slightly opened the bedroom door and recorded decisive evidence. They were so engrossed they didn't notice. I can't believe they underestimated me like this. I'll never forgive this. I've been made a fool of to this extent. No need for mercy. I sent the evidence I recorded to Amelia's husband, Asher. All set, we decided to confront them at the scene. Their faces were priceless when they saw us. Ella? What are you doing here? And why's Asher here too? Your sister-in-law told me. At those words, Amelia glared at me. I handed her an envelope. Their faces turned pale when they saw what was inside. I'm Ella Johnson. A 33-year-old working mom, raising a son. I'm not blood related to my parents. My mother was infertile, and they adopted me from a foster home. Ella's such a sweet kid. Yeah, we're so lucky she became our daughter. I'm forever grateful to my parents for accepting me like that. A year after I was adopted, my mother got pregnant with Amelia after fertility treatments. Since then, we were raised as sisters, not related by blood. Ella, what are you planning for your future? Don't hold back on our account. Well, actually, I've got a college in mind. After that, I moved to New York for college. I didn't return to my hometown for a job. Instead, I joined a company in New York. As a result of applying my expertise at work, I've been consistently achieving good results. I've been working hard every day for about 10 years. Hey, Miss Johnson, can I talk to you for a sec? One day, my boss called me in. The discussion was about recommending me for a promotion to department head. I was overjoyed and accepted, then headed back to my desk. You're in a good mood, what's up? Then, my husband, Lucas, approached me. Lucas is younger than me, and there was a time when I was his mentor at work. After the mentoring period, he began pursuing me actively. I fell for you at first sight. Will you go out with me? Swept up by his passion, I agreed to date him. Eventually, we got married after I became pregnant. And then, we had our adorable son. In the beginning, it was tough juggling work and parenting, but with Lucas's help, I started enjoying the busyness. On a day off, I went out with Lucas and our son, Charles. Is that you, sis? Could it be Amelia? At that moment, a young woman approached me. At first, I didn't recognize her, but then I realized it was Amelia. Hey Lucas, long time no see. It's been a while, hasn't it, Amelia? Are you all out as a family? That's nice, I wish I could join. Amelia's words made me internally groan. We came here to shop for our son today. If Amelia joined, she'd likely say, I want to go there. I want this, and we wouldn't be able to buy what we needed. Today is a family day, just for the three of us. So, no, you can't join. Oh, you're such a Scrooge, sis. Ignoring Amelia's tantrum, I nudged Lucas and Charles to start walking. We managed to shake her off and entered a nearby restaurant for lunch. Wow, never thought I'd run into someone here. While eating, I reminisced about the past. Our parents loved both their adopted and biological children equally. They even cherished me more, saying, having Ella brought us the baby and Ella brought us happiness. So, I always tried to care for Amelia. But it seems my feelings didn't reach her. As she grew up, she became more demanding, always saying, "It's not fair, you always favor Ella."
I want what my sister has. I absolutely need it. Give it to me, sis.
It started with a keychain. Though it was something I bought with a friend, Amelia begged intensely for it, and seeing our parents troubled, I gave it to her. That must have set a precedent. After that, Amelia constantly accused me of being unfair and tried to take things from me. Fortunately, my parents were on my side and scolded her, and since we had an age gap, there was a limit to what she could take.
I'm being harassed by my sister.
Annoyed by the situation, Amelia targeted my friends next. She went around telling my friends that I bullied her because we weren't blood related. Amelia was good at pretending to cry, and my classmates started to keep their distance from me. Some even said awful things directly or harassed me.
That's not possible. Ella has always been fond of Amelia.
In the midst of this, Lily, who bought the matching keychain with me, believed in me. She even fought back against the classmates who harassed me and warned Amelia not to lie. Because of this, Amelia and Lily didn't get along. I had been living peacefully since I separated from Amelia when I went to college. However, she recently got married and started living nearby. Sighing, I lamented the unexpected encounter.
Mom, are you okay?
Then, Charles looked at me worriedly. I smiled and brushed it off.
Are you really okay? You're worried about Amelia, aren't you?
While Charles resumed eating, Lucas asked me. I then shared with him the things about Amelia I had never talked about before. She was like that, huh? Lucas and Amelia had only met a few times, like during our wedding. And I hadn't brought her up in our conversations before.
Since I don't know much about Amelia, I might not be the best person to vent to. Why don't you talk to Lily? Lily? Yeah. How about next week? I'll take care of Charles in the meantime.
I nodded at his suggestion and immediately contacted Lily. A week later.
Sorry to keep you waiting, Ella. Nothing. Sorry, too, for calling you so suddenly.
I finally got the chance to talk to Lily. When I mentioned Amelia,
I heard you ran into her and came rushing over with all the info.
Saying this, Lily pulled out a report. Internally, I was impressed. Lily was using her observational skills and acting ability as a private detective. Her skills were well known.
Wow, as expected. Let me have a look.
Then, I reviewed the contents of the report. It detailed Amelia's recent behavior. Even after I left home, it seems she continued to play the victim and did as she pleased, making me out to be the bad guy. She apparently portrayed herself as the poor sister who was mistreated by her adopted older sibling. She apparently used this to attract men, but these relationships always ended quickly.
How could she turn out like this with such good parents?
I couldn't help but feel astonished reading this.
By the way, how are things with Lucas?
Suddenly, Lily asked me that. I tilted my head but responded that everything was normal.
He's really involved in parenting, and he's even taking care of Charles today, you know?
As I replied, Lily looked conflicted. I tilted my head again.
Is something wrong? No, it's nothing. If that's the case, then it's all good.
Lily shook her head to my inquiry. We chatted for a while longer and parted with smiles. Huh, Charles? Lucas? Ella?
Oh, Mom.
On my way home, I met up with Lucas, who was holding Charles's hand.
Did you guys go out?
Yeah.
We thought staying at home might be boring, so we went out for a bit of shopping.
Oh really? Did you have fun? To my question, Charles nodded, looking like he wanted to say something more. He clung to me without saying anything, tilting his head.
Come on, let's head home quickly.
Although puzzled, I hurried home at Lucas's urging. All the while, Charles stayed close to me.
What do you want for dinner?
Oh, I'll take care of it, Lucas said, heading into the kitchen. Should I help?
No, it's fine.
Can you keep Charles company? He seems to have missed you. I thanked him and turned to Charles, who, with a determined look, began to whisper something to me so Lucas couldn't hear. Shocked, but resolved, I decided on a course of action. Soon after, I received a call from Lily.
Ella, I need to talk to you about Lucas.
She revealed a certain truth to me, and we decided to take action.
I wonder if you could go with him.
It happened right after that. I was approached about a business trip. When I discussed it with Lucas, he casually said, "Go for it."
Could I leave Charles with my parents?
That's fine, but I can look after him. You come home later than me. I'm worried. Hearing my words, he agreed, saying that's true, and with Charles's consent, we decided to leave him with my parents. After explaining the situation to my parents, they told me, leave it to us. So, I left Charles with them, feeling relieved, and headed to the business trip location. By the way, I was supposed to go with a subordinate.
That's the situation. You might need to help out. Understood.
I discussed various things with him, talking about what's to come. I told Lucas it would be a week-long trip, but the work finished early, and I decided to return in 3 days. Then, I'll leave the rest to you. After parting ways with my subordinate, we each headed to our homes. At that point, I didn't contact Lucas, but instead reached out to Lily. After receiving some advice, I made up my mind and entered the house. I'm home. I called out, but of course, there was no response. Normally, Lucas would also be at work. However, I could feel someone's presence in the house, and there were familiar shoes, including Lucas's. So, I quietly sneaked into the house. And as I expected, I heard voices from the bedroom.
You're younger and nicer than Ella. Oh, that's nice to hear. Just stay a little longer.
The tired me, returning from a business trip, was greeted by such words from my husband and my sister. After being mocked, I had to start hearing unpleasant voices. For a moment, I thought about bursting in and yelling at them. But I quickly regained my composure and took out my smartphone. Then, I slightly opened the bedroom door to record decisive evidence. They were so engrossed they didn't notice.
I can't believe they underestimated me like this.
I'll never forgive this. I've been made a fool of to this extent. No need for mercy. I sent the evidence I recorded to Amelia's husband, Asher. Sorry to keep you waiting. Looks like they took the bait. Asher arrived quickly. As did Lily, whom he apparently contacted. I felt somewhat reassured by their presence. All right, shall we storm in? We got ready and decided to confront them at the scene.
What are you two doing?
The two were shocked to see us.
Ella? Why are you here? And why is Asher here too? Your sister-in-law told me.
At those words, Amelia glared at me. I handed her an envelope.
Answer my question,
Lucas demanded, looking at me. I thought it was troublesome but decided to respond.
The business trip ended in 3 days. I was accompanying her on the trip as her subordinate.
Actually, Asher, my brother-in-law, is my subordinate and Lily's younger brother. So, I was able to explain the situation to him during the trip and also managed to call Lily.
Convinced? Now, why don't you check the contents?
Lily urged with a smile. But her eyes weren't smiling, making them shudder. And then, their faces turned pale as they saw the contents.
I've collected evidence of the affair. It's well captured, isn't it?
Yes, the contents were evidence of their affair. They probably never imagined such proof would surface.
How can this be? Because I've been investigating you for some time now. What?
Actually, Lily was initially investigating Lucas for a different reason. It was for a background check on her daughter's fiancé.
What? Fiancé?
Of course, Amelia was already married to Asher, so she wasn't the fiancé. And surely my parents wouldn't investigate Lucas now.
So, you were involved with others besides me?
Yes, Lucas was not only involved with Amelia but also with a junior at the company. The junior's parents became suspicious of Lucas and coincidentally hired Lily's detective agency. When Lily saw the name, she realized it was Lucas, my husband. She suspected his betrayal and started her investigation. The investigation revealed Lucas was approaching various women, not just Amelia and the junior.
That's, well... Am I not enough for you?
Lucas turned pale and trembled. Amelia, furious to learn that Lucas was involved with others.
You're hardly in a position to complain.
But when Asher spoke in a cold voice, everything suddenly went quiet. He gave Amelia a cold, stern look.
After all, you're married to me, what are you doing? That's, well...
Amelia, teary-eyed, struggled to find an excuse. Lily, standing next to Asher with her arms crossed, looked stern, probably reminding Amelia of the many times she had been reprimanded. The angry expression was just like her brother's. As I thought this, I started packing.
Ella, what are you doing? I'm leaving you, Lucas, so I'm packing my things.
Lucas tentatively asked, and I firmly told him. Ignoring his pleas of wait for me and forgive me, I continued.
Let me help you with your bags. Oh, thank you.
No problem.
I'll send your things to this house, Amelia.
Asher said, carrying my luggage for me, and we left the house with a smile. As we left, they started yelling, but...
Enough already! You idiots!
Lily scolded them sharply. Instantly, they screamed in fright and fell silent. Leaving them behind, we confidently exited the house. Then I parted ways with Lily and Asher and went to my parents' house where Charles was.
Turns out, there was an affair after all.
I told my parents that Amelia and Lucas were indeed having an affair. Hearing this, they sighed deeply and consoled me with apologetic expressions.
Don't feel sad, it's not your fault.
I had already been informed by Lily about their affair. The day after she shared the information with me, she said, I can't stay silent about this, and revealed everything. Even Lily's evidence alone could have been enough for a divorce. But somewhere in my heart, I wanted to believe in Lucas. That's why I didn't divorce him until I saw it with my own eyes.
Charles, were you a good boy?
Feeling sorry for my worried parents, I changed the subject. Smiling, my parents responded.
He's just like you, a good kid. Such a sweet child.
Charles, praised by his beloved grandparents, smiled happily. I was glad I left him here.
Sorry, can I stay here for a while?
To my question, they nodded, of course. A few hours later, as we were chatting and eating the souvenirs from my business trip.
I knew you'd be here.
Amelia barged in.
It's your fault that Asher and I are getting divorced. If it weren't for you.
Amelia glared at me, yelling those words. As I hugged a frightened Charles and was about to retort.
Get out. You're no daughter of ours.
Instead, my parents yelled back at her. Her focus shifted to them.
What are you talking about? I'm your real daughter. Our daughter is only Ella. You were spoiled by your grandmother and grew up to be terrible. We can't think of you as our daughter anymore. My parents responded in an exasperated tone to Amelia's words. Yes, Amelia's twisted nature was triggered by our grandmother. She never accepted me, the adopted child, and doted on Amelia, her biological granddaughter. As a result, Amelia disregarded our parents' warnings and used me, the adopted sister, for her advantage. I always wanted to be real sisters with you.
I could tell that struck a nerve with Amelia.
You always act like that, thinking you're better than me just because you're not a biological child, even having a child of your own, something I couldn't do. I wanted a child with Asher too.
Amelia ranted and raved. Indeed, she had no children. But that was her own doing, as her actions with various men resulted in her being unable to have children.
You have no right to say such things to me. Shut up!
Amelia raised her hand at my words. But as I braced myself, Charles stepped in between us. This is bad, Charles might be in danger.
No, don't do this.
Before she could reach Charles, my father grabbed her hand and stopped her. Then forcibly threw her out. Watching her leave, I hugged Charles.
Don't do dangerous things like that. Sorry, I just wanted to protect Mom.
As my parents said, Charles really is a good kid. I thanked him and stroked his head. Later, Amelia reluctantly went to Lucas.
Lucas got sued for marriage fraud by the junior's parents.
Lily informed me later. Moreover, it was discovered that Lucas had been engaging in affairs during work hours. Naturally, Lucas was fired. I thought I would never see him again, but he was more persistent than I expected.
Please, Ella! Help me!
Lucas, who had been lying in wait outside the company, clung to me as I arrived at work. Even as I ignored him and tried to enter the company, he kept obstinately getting in my way.
If you're going to cling like that, why did you cheat? I know it. You're the one who approached first. Well.
Yes, Lucas was the one who approached first. That day, after I went to bed, he found Amelia's address from New Year's greeting cards and visited her, claiming it was a work call. Amelia, a stay-at-home wife, was at home and welcomed him with "Ella was rude yesterday, wasn't she?" That's how he managed to get into her house and start their affair.
Lily confronted Amelia for me.
After returning to our respective homes, I told Lily about Amelia's visit. Knowing that Charles could have been hurt, Lily, infuriated, went after Amelia, who had been chased out. Amelia hadn't reached her house yet and was caught by Lily before she could escape. Confronted by Lily, Amelia, triggered by her trauma, spilled everything.
Did you really think I would help you? But I was really serious about you.
What is he even talking about? If that were true, he wouldn't have cheated in the first place. While thinking about this, I was about to call the police, reaching for my smartphone.
Enough already. I'll sue you for business interference.
At that moment, Asher arrived. He pulled me towards him and once again gave Lucas a cold look.
A guy like you, we don't need in our company. What?
Actually, Asher will be the next president of this company. I joined this company due to the good relationship I've had with them for a long time. Because of my excellent performance, Asher was assigned as my subordinate. And he was training to become the next president.
You're kidding, right?
Lucas, unaware of this, looked at Asher in disbelief.
It's not a joke. Leave now.
Asher's demeanor showed no sign of reconsideration. Dejected, Lucas left. By the way, Amelia knew about Asher's upcoming role as the next president. Furthermore, it seems Amelia genuinely loved Asher.
Getting a divorce was really tough.
Asher confided. I comforted him with a pat on the shoulder. And Asher gave me a troubled smile in return. Later.
Excuse me. Yes, thank you for your hard work.
I was called in by the president.
My son owes you one. And about Lucas, it's unfortunate.
The president started discussing the matter, looking a bit conflicted. Asher, concerned about the recent events, was going to train in a subsidiary for a while. It was probably a good idea to put some physical distance between him and Amelia, considering her persistence.
So, I've been thinking about handing over the project I had planned for my son to you. Of course, the promotion to department head that was originally planned will still stand.
I felt honored by this and agreed to take on the responsibility. With this, I should be able to live comfortably even without Lucas. Since I'll be busy, my parents have agreed to look after Charles. By the way, Lucas wasn't taking care of Charles. You know, I was actually staying with my dad's parents. He had been staying with his in-laws, and it seemed they weren't too happy about it. Charles confided to me secretly one day. I vowed to myself that I wouldn't let him feel that way anymore. Fortunately, my parents, who are not biologically related to Charles, adore him as their own grandchild. With these worries gone, I'm even more motivated to work hard. It seems that Asher also managed to successfully distance himself from Amelia.
That kid is doing well in a subsidiary,
Lily told me when we had tea together. At that time, I learned about Asher's situation.
Asher has always been a hard worker. I'm sure he'll be fine. Yeah, about that. I was wondering if you could meet him sometime to show your support? I'll take care of Charles.
Surprised, I tilted my head in response. I don't mind meeting him. But from the way she said it, it sounds like she wants us to meet alone.
Well, I guess you'll understand once you meet him,
she said with a mischievous smile. I don't fully understand the situation, but I've decided to meet with Asher. Charles is being looked after by Lily, a little distance away.
I was surprised when you suddenly wanted to meet. Yes, well, I have been wondering how you've been since then. Thanks to you. It's still new to me, but I'm doing my best,
Asher said with a smile. I felt bad about the trouble caused because of Amelia, and I wanted him to be happy. As I was thinking this, Asher looked at me seriously and said,
I like you, Ella. What?
I was taken aback by his sudden confession. Apparently, Asher has liked me for a long time. However, due to the age difference, I only saw him as a younger brother. Because of this, he had given up on me.
That's why I got together with Amelia, who said she would console me.
It seems Amelia knew that he had feelings for me. She took advantage of that knowledge to start a relationship with him. When I married Lucas, Asher completely moved on and decided to marry Amelia.
I did love Amelia. I don't know what she was thinking when she approached me, but she was a support to me.
Amelia must have really loved Asher too. That's why, among many men, she chose to marry him. But now they are divorced, and she's angry at me.
I was quite shocked when I found out about Amelia's betrayal through my sister. You've had a tough time, Asher. I'm sorry, I'm not ready for those feelings yet. Besides, I want to prioritize Charles right now. I understand. I'm not in a rush for an answer,
he said with a smile. I was touched by the loving look he gave me, and my heart skipped a beat.
Mommy, are you done talking? Yes. We're done,
I replied, turning my attention to my son Charles as he ran up to us. I lifted him up, now noticeably heavier, and he smiled happily.
Charles, I hope we can continue to be good friends. Huh? Asher, we're already friends, aren't we?
Asher, being Charles's uncle theoretically, often played with him. Therefore, Charles tilted his head in confusion, to which Asher chuckled and agreed.
We might see each other less, but I hope we can stay as close as before. Yeah.
Charles nodded with a smile, and Asher gently stroked his head. From then on, Asher made time to come and see us. He gave Charles more attention than Lucas ever did, and Charles grew quite fond of him.
Ella! Charles! Why are you here?
While we were playing in the park, a disheveled Lucas appeared. Apparently, since divorcing Asher, Amelia had been wreaking havoc daily. The two of them had paid a substantial alimony, and Lucas couldn't afford to replace the furniture and appliances Amelia had destroyed. Hence, his disheveled appearance.
You must have missed Daddy. Let's be together again, the three of us.
I don't need Daddy, Charles interrupted Lucas firmly. Lucas, taken aback, asked, You don't?
Me and Mommy, Daddy doesn't like us, right? Well, that's not.
Mommy and I have Asher now. So, we don't need Daddy anymore. Lucas walked away with a dejected look. And I turned back to Charles and Asher with a smile.
Charles, would you be happy if Asher became your daddy? Yes. I'd be happy.
Charles beamed. Tears welled up in Asher's eyes.
No more tears, or you can't be a daddy. You're right. Let me say it again. Please let me be your husband, Ella, and Charles's daddy.
I nodded with a smile. After being rejected by us, Lucas became like a soulless man and apparently quit the part-time job he was doing. Amelia, of course, was furious about this, but he just ignored her. Fed up with Lucas, Amelia left and disappeared into the night. Lucas was taken back to his in-laws' house by his former parents-in-law.
It turns out he really did love me.
I learned about Lucas from my former in-laws. When they expressed a hope for me to reconcile with Lucas if possible, I immediately responded, "Charles and I already have someone who cares for us deeply." Hearing this, my former in-laws quickly gave up.
Hey, Charles, do you want to see your former dad's grandparents?
No, I don't want to see them for a while. My former in-laws, who frequently took care of Charles and didn't feel good about that, said sorry about it after learning the whole story. However, Charles seems to want to keep his distance for now. Since Lucas is at his former in-laws' house, we'll just become estranged. Because we don't need them anymore.
Asher is coming over next Saturday. Really? I have so much I want to talk to Asher, my dad.
Charles said with a smile, and I gently stroked his head. After that, Asher and I started dating. And when Asher returned from the subsidiary to the main company, we decided to move out of my parents' house. We're planning to live together as a family of 3 in our new home.
Please marry me, Ella. Yes, I'd love to.
Soon after, I accepted Asher's proposal and we got married. My parents and Lily blessed us, saying, "May you be happy this time," and Charles was delighted, exclaiming, "I'm happy Asher is becoming my dad."
I know it's odd for me to say, but Asher will definitely make Ella happy.
Lily saw how Asher loved me and witnessed his heartbreak when things didn't work out. That's why she encouraged him to pursue me when I divorced Lucas.
I know both the good in Ella and the good in Asher. That's why I want you both to be happy.
She has always been there for me, pushing me forward. For her sake too, I must be as happy as possible.
So, let's go out for a drink to celebrate next time. Sorry, I can't do that. Why?
Lily looked puzzled, but then I smiled and gently touched my belly. Realizing what I meant, her face lit up with joy.
Could it be? I'm expecting our second child. So, I can't join you for drinks. Of course. Wow, I'm as happy as if it were my own news.
She genuinely seemed thrilled. Her smile was so infectious that I couldn't help but smile too.
Charles is excited too, saying, "I'm gonna be a big brother." Wow, that's so like Charles. He's going to be a wonderful big brother, I'm sure.
When I told Charles he was going to have a brother or sister, he was so happy he practically jumped for joy. Asher felt the same way, and once he lifted me up in his excitement, Charles scolded him, saying, "Don't strain Mom's body."
So, I want Lily to help us with naming the baby. Really? I'll think really hard about it.
Suddenly, Lily became immersed in thought about what to name the baby. Watching her, I couldn't help but smile. From now on, I want to build a home where Charles, Asher, and our unborn child can all laugh together. I swore that in my heart. Take good care of those two, will you? What do you mean, take good care? Although John said it casually, I wonder if he would have accepted it if nothing had happened. I still don't quite understand. John was supposed to have gone on a business trip, but apparently, he had an accident at his destination. The call I received led me to a small town. It was suspicious that business trips, which had never been frequent before, suddenly increased, and he started going several times a month. Moreover, an employee of a copier company having a traffic accident in a town must mean something's up. While thinking about all this at the hospital, I accidentally ran into Emily. Why is Emily here? And what does it mean that she was in the town with John? Even in this seemingly desperate situation, it's infuriating to think he believes he can still deceive everyone. Does he think I'm just going to let this slide? I have strong allies, so there's no way John can escape without consequences. He should wake up to reality and rethink his actions. My name is Ida Smith. I'm a 33-year-old preschool teacher. After graduating from a community college, I started working at a fairly large town's daycare center. The job as a preschool teacher is harder than I thought, but being around these always smiling kids somehow makes me feel refreshed. However, constantly dealing with children at work, I sometimes yearn for adult conversation. Surrounded by dozens of kids, with a few fellow teachers around, I remain an educator in front of the children. Busy with work and unable to match schedules with college friends, I hardly have time for a coffee break. I don't have time to make friends with similar interests. So I'm always an educator when interacting with anyone other than myself. As a teacher, I can't really have adult-to-adult conversations. At my workplace, I am strictly a teacher, nothing more. One day, I was asked to take over the data management at work. A teacher going on maternity leave had been handling it, and it fell to me, seemingly the most idle and timid. Honestly, managing the data is just more hassle, not something to be happy about. I wanted to go home early and work as little and as easily as possible, so this was nothing but an additional chore. Even a job like managing the printer, which I was not used to in my usual work. I really hated it. Ensuring the printer works smoothly, refilling ink, and managing paper stock. It's all so bothersome. However, I couldn't have imagined that a person who would dispel my gloomy feelings was about to appear. In the afternoon, the daycare's bell rang, and the data manager, which was now me, was called to the staff room. It was nap time for the kids, so after informing my paired teacher, I headed to the staff room. "Hello. I've come for the printer inspection." I think I reacted as if I had been electrocuted at that moment. For some reason, his appearance or voice, there was something indescribable about him. Yes. I'm in charge. I took over from the previous person, and now I'm responsible. Nice to meet you." "Nice to meet you. I'm John Smith from the printer company." My first impression of John was pretty intriguing. It wasn't the kind of feeling you'd normally have for someone you meet through work. It felt strangely familiar, like I had met him somewhere before. "You probably won't remember. Do you sometimes stop by the store in front of the station in the morning?" That comment jogged my memory. "Oh. You were in the snacks section at the store, right?" I occasionally stop by the store near the station to grab lunch or a drink. The items I buy vary, but there's always this guy there at a certain time. Right at the entrance, standing near the prominently displayed new products shelf, carefully choosing which one to buy. That was him. "Actually, I've seen you at the store. Never thought I'd meet you here." That's my line. I was curious about the new snacks, but I also found myself wondering about the lady I saw there sometimes. Could something like this really happen? Usually busy with kids at work, I, a woman with virtually no encounters with men, remember feeling thrilled by his words. "Talking about work is one thing, but how about we exchange contact info?" "Of course." That was how I, on the day I met the printer company representative, ended up exchanging contacts with him. We gradually got closer, sharing little daily incidents and amusing stories, and he became more and more significant to me. It was love at first sight for me. But as I got to know Ida, I realized she's someone I want to be with all the time, someone who makes me feel so at ease. "Will you marry me? I can't believe this dreamlike day has come. I'm so happy." For me, who thought I'd just aged being focused on work, this was an unexpected spring. Meeting someone by chance on the streets, deepening our interaction and love, and moving towards marriage as a goal. At that moment, I was on top of the world, but I also had another thought in my heart. I won't end up like my sister. I will seize my happiness. I whispered that to myself. My sister, Emily, is 2 years older than me. Though we're not far apart in age, the idea that we're close as sisters is a complete misconception. I'm, well, not exactly a standout type. Just an average person who decided to become a preschool teacher because I loved kids, with decent grades and an okay sense of style. On the other hand, Emily was the total opposite, always focused on fashion. She was always thinking about how to stay beautiful and stylish. The kind of person who was part of the top, trend-setting, somewhat admired group in her school. Perhaps it's because of such relationships, but dating men has been a common occurrence since my student days. Ever since she got a boyfriend in her first year of middle school, Emily had never been without a boyfriend. She moved out of her parents' house right after high school graduation to live with her then boyfriend. In the end, she had a daughter at the age of 25 and settled down, but soon after, she got divorced. I sometimes checked if she's doing well by connecting with her on social media. She always dressed up stylishly and posted dazzling photos, but I couldn't help but feel a sense of emptiness. More like a fake facade from my childhood when I couldn't stand not being the center of attention, rather than a real mother. It's not about flaunting happiness in front of others. I believed that I should weave a happiness that fulfills myself and John. That was my belief. Life was blissful right after we got married. Coming home to someone I love, sharing meals, and enjoying the calm evenings together was something I cherished. We'd share our day's experiences and laugh together. Those moments were priceless to me. But at some point, things with John started to feel off. He began commenting on my appearance and behavior. He seemed like the type who wanted to control others, always offering unsolicited advice. At first, I tried not to mind it, but it was becoming too much. "Hey, Ida, don't you ever do your makeup properly?" As a preschool teacher, it tends to come off while taking care of kids or playing with them, so not really. "But isn't that outfit a bit too casual for work?" "Is it? I always dress like this, don't I?" That day, I was wearing a hoodie and jeans. Since I bike to the daycare, I prioritize comfort, and I change into work clothes there anyway. I've always commuted in this style without any issues. Most working women in their 30s don't walk around in such casual clothes. It looks like loungewear. Really? I've always dressed like this. What's up all of a sudden? John always had something to say about my clothes or belongings. From my bag and outfit to my hairstyle and makeup, he'd complain they weren't feminine enough or didn't fit a working adult. Once, when we went out for lunch near the station and stopped by a bookstore, he picked up a women's magazine and started this conversation. "Hey, Ida, why don't you dress like this?" It was a magazine targeted at ladies, adorned with flashy text and decorations. "Win this summer with a dress, get ready for a date with a $300 outfit." Honestly, these were far from my interests and lifestyle. "Sorry, but I'm not really into this stuff. It doesn't suit me or my job." "Oh, so you're not interested in matching my taste?" He turned moody after that. 6 months into our marriage, he started acting strangely and would get upset for no reason. I couldn't understand what John wanted or was thinking. Since then, our relationship has felt strained. We only have minimal conversation now, with no room for fun chats or light jokes. It's like there's a draft between us. Though we've never had a big fight or anything to apologize for. I can't figure out where things went wrong. If there had been some issue or argument in the past, I could trace back and try to resolve it, but honestly, I'm clueless. The only thing that comes to mind is when I turned down the outfit John wanted me to wear. Could that be the cause? Living together, sharing the same space and time, I thought we'd find some common ground for casual conversation. There was a TV special about infidelity airing at the time. The usual commentators and hosts were debating definitions of cheating and where the line is drawn. Of course, I'm totally against cheating. I've even broken up with past boyfriends because of their infidelity. In my view, cheating is absolutely off limits, especially in a marriage. Trying to lighten the mood, I casually brought it up to John. "Hey, this TV show is discussing infidelity." "Yeah, well, love takes different forms for everyone, doesn't it?" "Love does come in different forms, sure." Then, John started speaking rapidly, almost as if he was trying to convince me. "Think about it, right? Isn't it weird that a single piece of paper called marriage suddenly means you can't fall in love with anyone else for the rest of your life?
I mean, what's up with that? A bit of free love should be okay. Honestly, there was something unsettling about his words, not quite what you'd expect from a married man. It made me wonder if something had happened. Or if John was the type who wanted to continue romantic adventures even after marriage. Besides, love isn't defined by marriage as a formality, but by the depth of feeling, right? No matter how married you are, if you don't truly love someone, it's meaningless. Hearing this made me question what marriage meant to John, and it left me feeling uneasy. His words seemed directed at me, and I couldn't bring myself to look him in the eye. How could I have fallen for someone who can say such unbelievable things without batting an eye? I must have been out of my mind back then. Days passed, but I couldn't shake off what John had said. Knowing him, he wasn't the type to joke about such things, which only made me feel more perplexed and eager to find out the truth. I wondered if there was any way to investigate this. I flipped through work files. Then it hit me, maybe I could ask someone for confirmation. One day, John came home, avoiding my gaze, and said, "I have to go on a business trip tomorrow." "Another business trip? Weren't you gone for like 3 days last week?" Unfazed by my surprise, John replied nonchalantly, "Can't help it, right? Someone quit unexpectedly at this busy time, and work isn't getting done. I'm like the go-to big brother there, I have to keep things running." His sudden announcement made me ask, "Hey, is the person who quit someone I know? The senior you talked about before?" I used to have an idea of who he mentioned from work since John used to share office stories and funny incidents. My casual question was met with a hard look. "What? Does it matter who it is? What's it got to do with you, Ida?" "No, it's just small talk, nothing more." But John, clearly irked, cut the conversation short and went to the bathroom. Lately, his business trips seemed to be increasing. 3 years into our marriage, there hadn't been any significant talk of department changes or promotions. Nothing from John, at least. But the trips had become more frequent. From once a month to twice, then thrice. Now, he's often gone twice a week, and sometimes even the entire week. The next day, before leaving for work, John said to me, "This trip is with an important client, so don't you dare contact me." "What?" The seriousness of his request surprised me. "Got it? If my phone rings during a crucial deal and I get distracted, it's on you. Can you handle the responsibility if a $200 million contract falls through?" With those words, he left, and I watched his retreating figure, deep in thought. I got ready and headed to work. As usual, in my hoodie and jeans, riding my trusty old bike. I finished my duties at the daycare and was going to take a break. I noticed the TV in the break room was covering a traffic accident. While chatting with a colleague about the dangers of traffic accidents, my phone rang. I don't usually carry my phone at work, but I had it with me in the break room and noticed the call immediately. It was from an unknown number, and to my surprise, it was the police on the line. They were calling to inform me that John had been in a traffic accident. Just the other day, he seemed fine, but now in an accident? I couldn't believe it, but I composed myself to hear more. He was in critical condition from the accident and had been rushed to the hospital. He was still unconscious, and they wanted me to come right away. I hurriedly asked for the location of the accident and the hospital's name. But something struck me as odd when I heard the name of the police station. It was in a famous town for sightseeing. Why would John be on a business trip there? This thought crossed my mind. But regardless, I needed to rush to John's side. The story begins from there. After consulting with the daycare director, I left work early and took some time off to be with John. But before heading to him, there was something I needed to do first. I made a phone call. And soon, documents were sent to my house. At the hospital, John was lying in bed. He didn't wake up for 5 days, but finally regained consciousness. The doctor said he had a head-on collision with a truck, resulting in severe damage and partial paralysis.
"No way, John, you're kidding, right?"
"Sorry, but please take care of the two of us." I was lost in thought at his words.
Take care of the two of us? What was he talking about? It didn't seem like a joke, so I asked.
Sorry, but who are the two people you're referring to?
John's expression briefly showed he had slipped up. Who else? It's me and Erica. Erica is Emily's daughter, my niece. I had met her a few times at my parents' house, but why bring her up now?
Why are you suddenly mentioning Erica?
Well, I got a call from Erica during my trip. She asked me to take care of her if anything happened to her. The fact that Erica would contact John directly, and not her mother, was puzzling. Why not ask Emily? I blurted out.
Wait, you have Erica's contact info?
Well, it's more like I was in touch with Emily. John and Emily were in contact? And what did he mean by take care of if something happened? His hesitant tone was particularly troubling. I was still trying to process all this when a nurse wheeled in another hospital bed. The fellow passenger in the same traffic accident, the nurse said as she wheeled in the bed. I couldn't help but cry out when I saw who was in that bed. It was unmistakably Emily. And her belly was noticeably large.
Emily? Why are you here? And that belly?
I was baffled by what the nurse said about them being co-passengers in the same accident. And the two people John was referring to earlier, could it be? So, let me get this straight. Because of the accident, you're asking me to take care of you and my sister, right? Exactly. You catch on quick. It's great to have a woman who's sharp in situations like this. I felt as if all the blood had drained from my body. This was too perfect to be a mere coincidence. It couldn't possibly be a coincidence. I was scared to ask, but I had to.
Don't tell me, John, you were on a supposed business trip here with my sister and got into this accident?
Well, the trip was real, or rather not a lie. It just happened that Emily was here, and I thought I'd drop her off. His stammering, desperate excuses were pathetic. I could somewhat sense that my voice was trembling. I could barely comprehend the situation I was in. So, you coincidentally met my sister during a business trip and ended up sightseeing together? I blurted out at John, overwhelmed by emotions. My emotions are a mess, torn between not wanting to hear any more and knowing this isn't an issue I can just ignore. Whether he knew about my feelings or not, John was speaking in a nonchalant tone. He probably still hasn't fully grasped the situation he's in. John was trying to figure out how to talk his way out of this. His eyes were busy, darting here and there.
You're blowing this way out of proportion. It's your bad habit to always think the worst, he retorted.
I seized the opportunity to confront him with the truth. John, this was a fake business trip, wasn't it? A cover for your affair with my sister.
Me? On a fake business trip? I'm a sought-after man. I don't have time for such things.
He seemed to think that yelling would make the problem go away. So, you're saying you weren't on a fake trip? Even if you shout, I wonder if the boss would believe that? John always put work first and valued his reputation above all. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that his work was solely driven by how much he was evaluated and praised by important people. Mentioning the company president's name made him flinch. When I mentioned the president's name, it seemed like he flinched for a moment.
What? The president? What does he have to do with this?
If you're not doing anything shady, you should be able to explain everything to the president, if you can, that is. John scoffed.
You don't understand how it works. A president doesn't get involved in every little employee's business trip. You're embarrassing yourself not knowing that.
Say whatever you want. Oh, and I have a letter from that very president. The moment he saw the envelope with the company's name, his expression changed from despair to joy. Finally, my efforts have been recognized. Working from entry-level to regular employee for over 15 years, it all meant something, John said with a sense of accomplishment. Really, a raise? I asked, almost bursting into laughter at his confident assumption. Of course. My peers have been getting promotions, and I've been waiting for my turn for over a decade. But hard work pays off. Hurry, hand over the letter. He genuinely seemed to believe the envelope contained a notice of his salary increase. "Here you go, take your time reading it," I said as I handed him the envelope. He snatched it roughly and placed it on the hospital table. Holding the envelope, he looked at it intently, his face tense with anticipation. As he tore open the envelope, his excitement was evident. But upon unfolding the paper, his expression froze.
"A termination notice. Why me?"
The envelope was actually from John's company's president. "Look, there's more paperwork inside the envelope. You'll understand once you go through it."
"Shut up. Just shut up,"
he snapped, flipping the envelope upside down and spilling out all its contents. The documents scattered on the table, some falling to the floor.
"Receipt discrepancies for claimed expenses and inconsistencies in your travel routes."
Do any of these ring a bell?
"No way, that can't be."
I had contacted the company's president right after the accident, asking him to check John's company phone GPS and expense receipts. The president was already suspicious of John's actions. He was proactive in his response, especially since it was an employee's wife who reached out. Thanks to the president's efforts, a mountain of irrefutable evidence against John was gathered in no time. No matter how much John tried, the fact that he had been misusing company funds on fake business trips was undeniable.
"It seems the president has been watching you closely, John."
"He's thorough, isn't he?"
"Shut up.
There's nothing you can do now. Your usual tricks and lies won't work."
"How much did you know?"
"Everything. I knew you were getting fired." I had been informed by the president that John was scheduled for dismissal. However, considering his long service, they had offered him the option to resign voluntarily.
"What am I supposed to do now?" "Oh right, Ida, you're a preschool teacher, so you're fine."
"Fine? What do you mean?"
I questioned his smug expression. "You have qualifications, so you can work anywhere, anytime. I may have my certification, but I'll become a stay-at-home husband, managing the house, taking care of Emily and her child. Nowadays, with volunteers and helpers, we can manage childcare. Meanwhile, you work." Sounds like a good plan, right?
I was disgusted by John's rambling, his nostrils flaring with excitement. His selfish remarks were a mix of astonishment and anger, stirring indescribable emotions within me.
"Who's going to lend you a hand?" "You and some volunteers,"
he said, still believing someone would help him out, a mindset I couldn't comprehend. People say that life is about helping each other, but in this case, it's clear that all he's thinking about is receiving help unilaterally. Relying on someone isn't bad, but living a life where you only think about getting help and relying on others, what's that about?
"I didn't work hard to earn my preschool teaching qualification just to support a cheating, dishonest man. I'm not working to live with someone like that." I handed John the business card of the lawyer I had already hired. "We're getting a divorce. I'll be seeking alimony. Any further discussions will go through the lawyer." "A divorce? Demanding alimony from a partially paralyzed person? Are you a demon? Do you even realize what you're doing?"
I sighed in exasperation and said,
"Do you realize what you've done? I could throw your words right back at you. Maybe if you reflect on your actions, you'll understand. Weren't you in love with me, and didn't we marry? What about the vows we took in sickness and in health? Were they all lies?"
John grasped the hem of my shirt with his functioning hand, but I briskly shook it off. Looking down at Emily in the next bed, I said, "Emily, you've always needed to be number one, haven't you? Even towards me, your younger sister." Emily's expression faltered for a moment but quickly returned to normal.
"Of course. I couldn't stand the idea of plain Ida getting married before me. I was supposed to be the one to marry into wealth first."
"Marry into wealth?" I asked incredulously.
"Yes. My first boyfriend right after high school was just into casinos and didn't work. Erica's father earned a meager salary, and we were still living in an apartment. I couldn't stand it anymore,"
Emily said tearfully, but her words were utterly self-centered. You only think about what others can do for you.
I'm a woman. Looking beautiful is my job, right? I want to be a shining jewel beside my husband. And I thought John, despite not being very handsome, worked at a well-known company and had a good salary?
I asked, to which she glared at me.
You didn't divorce John quickly, so we had to sneak around and ended up in this accident.
As Emily glanced back and forth between John and me, I asked.
So you're saying it's my fault? Yes, what about it? The choice of a marriage partner was undoubtedly your own. Using someone's income as an excuse to meddle with another person's husband doesn't justify anything.
Realizing further conversation with these two would only exhaust me, I decided to leave. Lingering in the hospital room would only cause more disturbance. Their dialogue was like something out of a drama, unbelievable and overly dramatic. The extent of their unreasonable statements left me speechless.
I'll discuss the rest with Emily through the lawyer. For now, just know that I'm seeking a lump sum in alimony. Alimony? Against a partially paralyzed person?
Sorry, but you were on a cheating trip, weren't you?
You brought this on yourself.
Emily reacted strongly to my words of "you brought this on yourself." Mumbling to herself in denial, her face grew increasingly pale, and I couldn't help but feel amazed at how far she was willing to run from reality. Eventually, John and I divorced. With a strong lawyer specializing in divorce cases, I successfully obtained higher than average alimony from John. After resigning from his job, John was heard to be drifting from place to place. Emily, having tried to steal her own sister's husband, ended up being disowned by her family. She's been aimlessly wandering, with nowhere to go. She did receive assistance from a facility that supports people with disabilities, but all she did was complain, "This isn't the kind of work I should be doing, and I can't stand these trivial tasks." Her behavior was not only unproductive but also disruptive to others, leading to her being banned from the facility. Now, she's barely getting by on minimal disability insurance. As for Emily's child Erica, after contacting Erica's father, he gladly agreed to take her in. This was a relief, considering the custody battle during their divorce where Emily insisted that a mother should always be with her child, and the mediator granted her custody. I was somewhat worried about Erica, so it's truly a relief she's with her father, away from Emily's influence. I felt relieved because staying with Emily, Erica wouldn't have been truly happy. I continue to work at the daycare, living my usual life. As for the alimony, John's family ended up paying his part, and Emily is repaying hers through a loan. Although the settlement was more than I expected, the happy days of ignorance are gone and won't return. Now, all I can do is look forward and move on. There's no point in looking back since I can't return to those days. Perhaps quitting my job and traveling to unknown countries could be a good change. These are the thoughts I ponder as I go about my day.
Where are you now, when our daughter has been rushed to the hospital with serious injuries?
Panicking after receiving a call from the hospital while on a business trip, I contacted my husband. Our 5-year-old daughter had happily talked about having a picnic in the park with Daddy over the phone. And now, she had fallen from high playground equipment in the park and was unconscious.
Just wait a minute. I'm in the middle of a business meeting at the office.
On the other end of the phone, my husband also started to panic for some reason. Our conversation was not making sense, and both of us were confused. In the flow of the conversation, my husband mentioned a certain person's name. As soon as I heard it, the blood drained from my face. Since we both worked, our daughter, Karen, went to daycare. Despite our busy lives with work, housework, and childcare, we enjoyed our life as a family of 3, cooperating with each other. My in-laws were nice people and adored our daughter. Except for one person. Her name was Sophia, 3 years younger than me, living at her parents' house while working a temp job. So, when we visited my husband's parents' house, we often saw her.
Shall we head back? We'll come to visit again. Hey, Karen, say bye to Sophia.
Bye, Sophia. As we were leaving, Karen only glanced at my smiling sister-in-law before quickly hiding behind me.
Sorry, she's a bit shy. It's totally fine. Don't worry about it.
Even if my daughter behaved rudely, Sophia always brushed it off like this. But that was only in front of my husband or parents. Afterwards, she smiled only at my husband, saying, "Come visit again, Hugo." She didn't even glance my way as I apologized. The last Hugo sounded oddly emphasized, or is it just me overthinking? Actually, Sophia and I attended the same university. However, we didn't know each other during our student days, and I don't know much about her from that time. One thing is clear, she doesn't seem to like me much. Even this time, if my husband hadn't been there, she would have said something like, "Can't even greet properly at her age," with a hint of sarcasm. Sophia behaves normally towards me and my daughter in front of my husband or parents. But the treatment we get when we're alone with her is cold. This was evident when my daughter had a fever and was suddenly called from daycare, and I asked my mother-in-law to pick her up.
You asked our parents to pick her up again? It's a nuisance if she passes on her cold or something.
I'm sorry. I had an unavoidable meeting.
Yeah, there it is. Think everything's excused if it's for work? My mom's not young anymore, don't overburden her, okay? I'm not free either.
Indeed, we did rely on my in-laws for our daughter, but we always tried to keep it to a minimum and properly thanked them afterwards. And I've never inconvenienced Sophia, at least.
Oh, sorry. Compared to a full-time working mom with a kid, me and my retired parents must seem pretty free to you, huh?
Sophia sneered, looking at me with a twisted mouth. Nobody said that. Because she always behaved this way only in front of me and my daughter, Karen became wary of Sophia. I suppose she didn't find that amusing. It's natural to have people you don't get along with, and for me and my daughter, that was Sophia. I've tried to keep my distance from Sophia as much as possible, continuing the family relationship without causing trouble. I didn't want to complain to my husband or in-laws about Sophia and risk her bearing a grudge. Considering that, the daily sarcasm seemed trivial. That was until I had to go on a business trip out of state for 5 days due to work. During this period, my husband was supposed to take care of our daughter. My in-laws were away on a trip, so it was tough for my husband, but he was eager, saying he'd go through it. True to his word, he managed the hectic weekdays, and tomorrow was the last day of my trip. I was on the phone with Karen, who had just returned from daycare.
What are you gonna do tomorrow? Guess what? Daddy and I are gonna have a picnic at the big park.
Over the phone, I could hear my daughter excitedly talking about what she was going to do tomorrow.
We'll eat lunch and I want to do the obstacle course too. That sounds fun, honey. Mama will be back tomorrow night. Just make sure you do the obstacle course with Daddy, it can be dangerous.
After hearing my daughter's energetic reply, I ended the call. Karen looked so happy. Hugo must have been doing a great job. I decided to make my husband's favorite dishes when I got back. I thought about playing a lot with my daughter, considering she might have felt lonely. Little did I know, something like that was going to happen. I couldn't have imagined it at the time. It was the afternoon of the next day, as I was about to finish my last task at work. A colleague, with a grave look on their face, passed me a phone call. Rushing to answer, the caller was from the general hospital in our area. "Your daughter has been injured and brought in by ambulance. She's unconscious, please come immediately," they told me.
What do you mean? Where's my husband?
Confused and struggling to find words, I learned that there were no guardians at the scene of Karen's accident. A nearby parent and child had called for an ambulance. My contact information was in my daughter's belongings, so the hospital had called me. Where could Hugo have gone? I tried to contact my husband immediately. However, no matter how many times I called, he didn't answer. After explaining the situation to my boss, they told me, "Don't worry about work, go to your daughter right away." Grateful for their understanding, I hurriedly left work for the hospital. On the way back, I kept calling my husband and finally got through.
What's happening? Why are you so frantic? There's no time for that. Karen is injured and in the hospital. Where are you and what are you doing?
His voice was too calm through the phone, which made me raise my voice without realizing.
How could this happen while you were supposed to be with her?
Just wait a minute. I'm in the middle of a business meeting at the office.
What?
His unexpected reply only added to my confusion. It was a holiday today, and he was supposed to be spending it with our daughter.
You're working? What are you talking about? You said you were going to the park with Karen today.
But didn't Sophia contact you? Hearing that name made me freeze on the spot.
Why would Sophia be involved?
Barely managing to utter those words, my husband began to realize the gravity of the situation. Regaining a bit of composure, I explained our daughter's condition and heard the full story from him. A little after our call ended yesterday. While preparing dinner, he received a call from his boss. Apparently, a big deal came through, and you're the only one who can handle it, he was told and couldn't refuse. Desperate, he tried contacting his parents, but of course, they couldn't return from their trip immediately. That's when Sophia called, seemingly perfect timing.
I heard from Mom and Dad. You got caught up with work all of a sudden? I'm free tomorrow, so I can take care of Karen.
Seemingly concerned for my troubled husband, my in-laws must have informed Sophia.
A picnic at the park? Then, I'll have to make lunch too.
She said, willingly taking on the responsibility of caring for our daughter. I'll contact Natalia, so don't worry, she said, leading him to believe I was informed. Under those circumstances, to my husband, it must have felt like a relief. But hearing the whole story, I felt a chill run down my spine.
Karen! Did she resist?
I couldn't help but ask. Being alone with Sophia, who was only kind in front of her father. I'm sure my 5-year-old daughter had her suspicions.
She was crying, wanting to go with Daddy. But, since Sophia was kind enough to come over, I told her not to be selfish. I never imagined something like this would happen.
The conversation with my husband ended awkwardly, and I hung up. Upon arriving at the hospital, I was immediately directed to the ICU. Karen had fallen from high playground equipment and hit her head, still unconscious. When the doctor said there's no danger to her life, but she might have lasting effects, I nearly collapsed from despair. If only I had contacted Hugo one more time this morning. If only I hadn't taken on that business trip. Despite knowing there was nothing I could do about it now, those thoughts kept swirling around in my head. How much time had passed? While I was standing there dazed, my husband arrived at the hospital, and it seemed he had also contacted Sophia.
Is Karen okay? Is she safe? Hey, is she all right?
Sophia, who appeared before us, was sobbing and worried about our daughter.
I just took my eyes off her for a moment to go to the bathroom. I told her I'd be right back.
Before we could say anything, she started making excuses.
But that's just an excuse, isn't it? It's my fault for not watching her properly. I'm really sorry.
After saying what she wanted to, Sophia just cried, leaving no room for us to blame her.
Why didn't you come to the hospital sooner? I got a call from Hugo, and you're only getting here now.
I struggled to keep my voice steady, trembling with anger.
I've been looking for Karen the whole time. The park was too big, and I couldn't find her.
Considering she had been searching the vast park, it was odd that her clothes weren't dirty, and even stranger that she didn't notice the commotion when the ambulance arrived. Honestly, my only thought was, how could she? But pointing that out now would only lead to her dodging the issue.
Hugo said he told you to contact me, didn't he? I haven't heard anything? Well, I thought, since you were busy with work, I didn't want to bother you.
Watching Sophia choke up her words and act as if she was afraid of me, my anger only grew.
Hey, calm down, Natalia. She's already feeling sorry, and it wasn't on purpose. Don't be too hard on Sophia.
My husband began to defend his sister, seemingly feeling pity for her. What? It's like I'm the bad guy here. I took a deep breath and simply said, okay. Thinking she had been forgiven, Sophia repeated "I'm sorry," covered her face with her hands, and started to sob again. But I didn't miss it. The moment she brought her hands to her face, Sophia glanced at me and quietly smirked. After Sophia left, I confronted my husband.
Do you really believe what Sophia said? Do you truly think she was watching Karen properly?
What do you mean?
I mean, it doesn't make sense. And I saw it, for a moment she...
Calm down. Natalia, you're probably just tired. I know you want to blame someone, but Sophia didn't mean any harm. He was interrupted by the doctor coming out of the treatment room. Hearing your daughter has regained consciousness brought tears of relief to my eyes. Karen could speak, but her memory of the events leading up to and following the injury was hazy.
Karen, do you understand? It's Mom.
Mom. Where am I? My head hurts. This was supposed to be a fun day. Seeing my daughter lying in bed made me feel sorry for her all over again. You went to play with Sophia, but then you got hurt and came here. It's all okay now. Sophia. Is Sophia here? No, she's not here. Karen, what did you do today with her? I forgot. After that, she stopped talking, pulled the blanket over her head, and started to shiver. It was a gesture Karen always made when she was afraid of something. Is she afraid of Sophia? Did she do something to her? Because of her memory issues, my daughter was scheduled to stay in the hospital for a few days for tests. On the way home, I tried telling my husband, Karen seems to be afraid of Sophia, but he dismissed it the same way as before, saying I was overthinking it. If only there was some evidence, it might convince him to keep Karen away from Sophia. Without any belief from him, I needed evidence of Sophia's true nature to show my husband, for our daughter's sake. Later, I reached out to a junior from my college days. She was part of the same circle as Sophia back then and knew her well. She always had to be number one, a troublesome kid. Friends? As if she could have any. With a liar like that, the disdainful voice of my junior, clearly fed up, is something I won't forget anytime soon. From her, I got Sophia's social media account information. Furthermore, I checked the contents of the cell phone my daughter loves to use for kids. Lately, whenever we go out, Karen always carries this phone with her, capturing videos of the scenery and conversations with people she's with. It's become her latest craze. There might be evidence in here of Sophia treating my daughter coldly, that would be a real find. That's what I thought, lightly. Until I saw the videos recorded on it. To put it bluntly, my suspicions were confirmed. But it wasn't just about exposing her true nature anymore. On the third day of my daughter's hospitalization. On a holiday morning, my husband and I visited his parents' house, and we arranged for them to go visit our daughter in the hospital with him. Using the excuse that it would be bothersome to go to the hospital in a large group, I stayed behind. In the living room, Sophia was leisurely sipping coffee. Hello, Natalia. How's Karen since then? She's much better. She might be able to leave the hospital soon. That's good to hear. Sophia, with her eyebrows furrowed in an exaggerated, theatrical voice, feigned relief. What's good about it? Which mouth of yours is saying that? As usual, Sophia plays the part of the good sister-in-law in front of the parents and my husband. I matched her act, putting on my best kind sister-in-law performance. Well, we're off to the hospital then, said my husband as the three of them left the house, and both Sophia and I waved them off with a smile. Once it was just the two of us, as expected, Sophia's attitude changed completely. What do you want? You didn't stay to make small talk, did you? I faced her squarely, resting her cheek in her hand, clearly annoyed. Could you apologize to Karen? And, I want you to take responsibility for what happened this time. Huh? What's that supposed to mean? It's your daughter who's at fault for not following instructions and acting on her own, isn't it? And you think you can keep up that lie forever? I confronted Sophia with copies of her social media posts. They included a post saying, "Woke up early to make this for my boyfriend today," accompanied by a photo of Sophia happily sharing a lunchbox with a man. I also showed her all the posts from that day, detailing shopping and dinner outings.
This was the day you were supposed to be looking after Karen. You left her in the park to go on a date with your boyfriend.
The story of her searching for my daughter all along was a fabrication, evidenced by these photos. As Sophia looked over each photo, her expression darkened for a moment before she scoffed and tossed the documents aside.
What's this supposed to prove? The date on a post can be changed with settings, you know?
Indeed, as Sophia said, the evidence might not be conclusive. People often deliberately change the timeline of their posts to prevent their personal information and private life from being fully exposed.
This boyfriend of yours, he's an old circle friend, isn't he? I heard from my junior. Wow, you went out of your way to contact someone just to dig up dirt on me. You must be really bored.
Sophia laughed mockingly at me, clearly showing no remorse. Such an attitude of belittlement.
Whether the post date and the actual photo-taking day match, we can find out by checking with this guy through my junior. So what if I have a boyfriend and went to the park with him? What's wrong with that? So you admit to babysitting while on a date? Who I ask to help babysit is my business, isn't it?
With that selfish remark, Sophia turned away. So, in the end, you want to say it's Karen's fault for not following instructions, not yours at all? Confirming that in my mind, I silently nodded.
Anyway, no matter what you say, my parents and brother won't believe you. So, you're planning to align your story with your boyfriend and erase the posts to cover it up? I suppose you would do that. No need for such tricks. It's obvious they'll believe me, a family member, over someone else like you.
Sophia said this with a face full of conviction, sure of her victory. But her ability to maintain that attitude ended there.
I think they'll believe this,
I said as I pulled out my cell phone and played one video.
What's this?
Upon hearing the audio from the video, Sophia's face, previously confident, turned to shock as she stared at the screen. What was shown was the truth of that day, recorded by my daughter. The video captured the surrounding scenery and, clearly, Sophia's voice berating my daughter repeatedly. Stop fussing over flowers and hurry up. You're so slow. Sophia yelled. Then came Karen's trembling voice, I'm sorry. Sophia also filled my daughter's head with insults about me and threatened her if she dared to talk back, shut up. If you talk back again, I'll leave you behind. The footage that followed only showed Karen's feet walking slowly. Likely too scared to even look up at Sophia. After a while, the video showed Sophia rushing off to a man, laying out a leisure sheet, and starting to eat without paying any mind to my daughter. When Karen tried to eat some side dishes, Sophia snapped, Don't touch it, it's dirty. It wasn't made for you, pushing Karen's hand away. Then, as if she had an idea, Sophia smiled at Karen, Hey, do you want to go back to your mom and dad? Upon Karen's nod, Sophia suggested, Let's play a game then. If you can get to the top of that playground equipment alone, I'll take you home. Pointing to the park's largest playground structure. The video ended as Karen headed towards it. When my husband and I reviewed this footage yesterday, I couldn't count how many times I cried. After watching all the videos, Sophia was trembling, but soon she slammed the table forcefully and stood up.
What is this? Are you threatening me with a child's video? You're insane. You're trying to pin this on me and Hugo, making it seem like you knew Karen would get hurt. It's just your daughter who was stupid enough to fall for it.
In a fit of rage, Sophia snatched the cell phone from me and, unbelievably, smashed it against the wall. The screen shattered, and the internals were exposed, clearly beyond repair. With a face red with anger and breathing heavily, Sophia smirked.
Now you have no evidence. Serves you right.
Her expression was the epitome of evil. But to me, her attitude felt almost comforting. Yes, keep yelling. Show your true, vile nature even more. I was afraid my heart would be filled with darkness if I let my guard down. So, before that happened, I decided to stop her.
She admitted to leaving Karen in danger knowingly, Hugo.
I said, pulling out a second cell phone from my pocket. Pressing the speaker button, the enraged voices of my in-laws and husband were heard.
Wait. Hugo, Dad, Mom. Why? I've had the phone on this whole time. They've been listening to everything. And you'll be paying for the phone you broke. It's mine, after all. But
what Sophia didn't know was that the video she saw was a copy. The original was safely with my husband.
There's no way I'd bring our daughter's important phone here. I suspected you might do something, but I didn't think you'd smash it. It was just a joke. I didn't think Karen would take it seriously. I never imagined she'd actually climb up there.
Sophia, now pale-faced, started making excuses, her voice a mix of apologies and attempts at manipulation.
Karen fell, and I was so scared. I couldn't do anything, and when the ambulance arrived, I just ran away. I'm sorry.
Tears filled her eyes as she meekly apologized, trying to elicit sympathy. Of course, no one was falling for it anymore. Realizing she had no way out, Sophia turned her anger towards me again.
Don't look at me like that. It's all your fault. You, your daughter, my brother, my parents, you took everything from me. Stop making ridiculous accusations. Shut up. Just because you're a little good at your job and had a kid, everyone fusses over you. It makes me sick. You and your daughter.
As Sophia started to lash out, I was at a loss for words. Just then, at that very moment, my in-laws, who had been waiting in the car, came into the room. Thanks to my father-in-law scolding Sophia, thankfully, no hands were laid on me. I've been given permission to do as I please with her. I decided to take them up on their offer.
I will be filing a police report,
I declared, and my in-laws agreed without hesitation. Seeing them nod without any reluctance, Sophia began to cry for real and clung to my feet.
Wait. I understand. I'll apologize. I'll apologize to Karen. Please don't report this to the police. Please.
Those pleading eyes, looking up at me, she must have been manipulating people like this since she was a child.
If you had admitted what you did from the start, I would have given you a chance to apologize.
I thought to myself, looking at her as if she were trash.
But now, I've lost that feeling. I will never forgive someone like you. You will face the full extent of the law.
I believe this was the only time I ever treated someone with such cold disdain. I simply looked down silently at my sister-in-law, kneeling and slumped over. My memory of what happened next is vague, and I don't quite remember how we left my husband's family home. Next thing I knew, I was with my husband in our daughter's hospital room.
Mom, what happened? Are you okay?
Karen's voice finally brought me some peace. We filed the police report that very day. As a result, Sophia was subjected to legal punishment. I had thought our chances were slim since Sophia hadn't directly harmed her, but the police said the videos my daughter took and the call records I had let my husband listen to were decisive. Thanks to that evidence, they could prove Sophia had maliciously put my daughter in danger, thinking it was okay if she got hurt. Though she wouldn't be behind bars for more than a year, for someone with her princess attitude, it must have been quite a shock. My in-laws decided to disown Sophia, sold their house, and moved away, ensuring she wouldn't have a family to return to after serving her sentence. Karen, fortunately, didn't suffer any notable after-effects and was discharged from the hospital without issue.
Grandpa, Grandma, I want this pink one.
Next spring, Karen will start elementary school. Choosing a backpack with her grandparents, she's as lively as